Okay, we continue on. Fred, Roggin, Rodney, Pete on AM 570 LA Sports. Be safe in the rain. Rain paralyzes Southern California. It's like we don't even understand what it is. But this is the double whammy. First the fires, now the rain. It's going to be a tough couple of days, so please be careful. All right, so the Clippers play their final game before the All-Star break tonight. We'll have it here on the radio station. And let's welcome on the host of Clipper Countdown, the post-game show, the halftime show, the YouTube show, the Saltier Adam Oslin. Salty, how are you?
What's up, guys? What's up, Fred? Pretty good there with the introduction. I'll take it. I like it.
You know, I got a bone to pick with you before we get started.
Oh, you don't want to start with me, Fred. Not today. You really want to do this? You really want to do this?
Yeah, I got a quick bone.
All right.
Let me just get it out.
All right.
I think it's better that we work it out, Adam.
We're fighting before we even get to it, apparently.
Yeah, so,
get my popcorn. Hold on. Let me get my popcorn.
Yeah, settle in for this.
Curl up on the couch, Rodney.
You know, and Rodney, you don't have to go through this. You don't go through this, but I apparently do. You know,
I want to see it.
All right.
I want to hear it, see it, believe it, feel it.
All right. I check the Saltier all the time, social media. I mean, got to follow the guy because he's one of the best. Why do you keep taking things I say and inserting them into songs and inserting them into little skits? Why do you keep doing that?
Wait, what's the last thing I did? It was just that Kawhi commercial. That was like a month
you've done
ago.
it recently again. I saw something.
I didn't do a damn thing.
No, you have. You have. I saw it.
Linker didn't happen, Fred.
No, you did.
Fred,
and I know you're doing it, and I just want that on the record. I know you're doing it. I know whenever you're on with us, I'm never safe. I want you to know that. This is not a safe space for me when you're on.
If I am doing it, at Follow Adam May is where you can find that Fred Roggin exclusive material where I'm just mocking him relentlessly 24 hours a day. At Follow Adam May.
All right. Okay, let's get to it. Clippers wrap up the first half of the season. As you sit here right now, Adam, give me the overview and where you think they go.
I think this is a team that's in a really good spot, considering Kawhi has only played 14 games so far, and they're 7 games above 500, and have a chance, if they can win in Utah tonight, do what the Lakers couldn't last night, to be 8 games above 500 at the break, and it's not the midway point. They're 3/4 of the way through the season, but if you can be 8 games above 500 with just 14 so far from Kawhi Leonard, who's been in this ramp-up process where his minutes have been going up incrementally, you're in a great spot. But the Western Conference is brutal. It's a gauntlet. Nothing is guaranteed. And they're probably going to be on the bubble for being a top 6 seed and staying out of the play-in. That's not going to be easy to do, especially with the Lakers now having Luka Doncic. So there are teams ahead of them that are going to be very difficult to get by, especially because they have a lot of the tiebreakers against the Clippers. But overall, if you would ask Clipper Nation coming into the season, hey, at the All-Star break, let's say you're about 8 to 10 games above 500, they would have said, okay, did Kawhi play every game? Is that what happened? No. And they're still doing it. So it's really impressive, guys. They have overachieved by far so far this season.
And how do you treat Kawhi going forward, Adam? Obviously, the history, there's concern. He's back, and when he's on the court, again, he's still Kawhi. But how do you treat him the rest of the season? Do you ramp up his minutes? You keep it similar? You just... How do you treat it, knowing that you're kind of going to be on the bubble in terms of making it or in the play-in, but treating Kawhi is going to be imperative because you can't do anything without him?
Yeah, I mean, the priority is still playoffs above everything else with Kawhi Leonard. You still got to get there, but you're not going to push things. I don't think he's playing a back-to-back the rest of his career at this point, guys. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. How would that be wise? They tried doing everything last season. They've tried every different way to do this, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. They've treated this season with an abundance of caution, and I like it because the minutes ramp up. They basically said when he first came back, this is his preseason. They started very slowly. He was at 20 minutes a game, then 24, then 28, then 30. Now he's at about 34 minutes. That's what he played last night. And he looked good. After 3 days off, I needed to see him look better because he had looked a little bit lethargic out there. He got through a stretch where he played their last 9 games within 18 days. So Kawhi was playing every other day, and he looked tired. He looked gassed. While his minutes were going up, he's playing every other day, but then they got 3 days off, and he looked much more spry out there against the Memphis Grizzlies last night, led them with 25 points, and they blew him out in the second half. That's the version of Kawhi Leonard they need more consistently on a consistent basis because they got like 17 games coming up in March. It's a tough schedule. It's not as tough as it's going to be for the Lakers where they have that 6-8 coming up due to the fires in Southern California. They got a really tough stretch, and they have the fourth toughest strength of schedule coming up. The Clippers still have the sixth toughest strength of schedule the rest of the way. So you still want to make sure that Kawhi is as rested as possible. He's not playing tonight. It's a back-to-back. They're in Utah, and everybody expected that. I think you got to handle him with caution. You just do because of the injuries that have occurred the last 4 straight years where he hasn't been able to finish a playoff series. It's just what it is. And hopefully you get in with Kawhi, you get a healthy Kawhi, and you can put the fear of Kawhi into any team you're facing in a series. The fear of God, the fear of Kawhi. Like, if you have Kawhi healthy in a playoff series, you feel good against anyone. So why would you not prioritize that over everything else? That's what's most important.
That's hard to argue. I'll tell you, before the Lakers made the deal for Luka, and we'll get your take on that, but before they made that deal, I actually thought the Clippers had the better roster. I actually thought the Clippers had a better shot, Adam. I thought they played better together. I thought they were better constructed. I thought they had the better shot. But now after this deal, it's kind of flipped, hasn't it?
I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. With them not getting Mark Williams and that trade being rescinded, and I understand the reasons why, they have a gaping flaw, the Los Angeles Lakers. They pick up Alex Len. He's a serviceable backup, I would say, at best. I don't know if that's the solution. So unless Jackson Hayes takes a major leap forward, I still feel like, look, small ball-wise, the Lakers are going to be really tough when they figure it out. But I expect a lot of peaks and valleys moving forward with this Lakers team. And there's just an imbalanced roster a little bit because they just don't have the bigs. They don't have the rim protection. And teams are going to feast going downhill against them. That's what happened last night with the Utah Jazz. They just went straight at Alex Len. He couldn't stop anybody. His first 14 minutes out there, they were a minus 19. So they still have issues. I think the Clippers have the more complete roster. The Lakers may have more top-end, high-end talent with LeBron and Luka and Austin Reeves, but it's still close there when you're talking about Norman Powell having an all-star level season, Kawhi Leonard getting back to himself, James Harden, Ivica Zubac's having a breakout year, getting more opportunities on the offensive end. I think it's really close between these two teams, and the Clippers at least have an ability to play different ways, I think, than the Lakers, because not having a true big man for the Lakers could come back to really bite them. Maybe they figure it out. LeBron and Luka Doncic are so spectacular, it doesn't matter. They play so much small ball, and their offense is so juiced up that it doesn't matter that they're giving up points on the other end. They're just going to outscore you. But I still think it's close, Fred. I don't know if it's completely flipped.
Yeah, I looked at that game last night, and yes, it's the last game before the All-Star break for the Lakers. But it felt like, okay, Utah saw him a couple nights before, and they looked at it and go, okay, no Anthony Davis. Can Jackson Hayes really hold up? And he didn't. 8 minutes in, he's out. Okay, we're going to, like you said, we're going to play downhill. We're going to let our bigs go off. And it was a mismatch, Adam. And not to mention in the rest of the West, Houston's big. Denver's big. I mean, there's some big teams
Memphis
that they're going to have to face. Memphis is big. I mean, and so as good as Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves can be offensively, they're going to have to outscore people because I think they will to a certain extent. And I know Fred and everybody's excited and that Anthony Davis is out of town, but don't forget how big a defensive player.
Fair. Everybody's excited that
fair?
Anthony Davis is out of town. I think everybody's excited Luka Doncic is here.
And, well, when you say they're going nowhere and now there's excitement they can go somewhere. And True. It was the trade between Luka and Anthony Davis. So yeah, you can say I'm happy Luka's here, but you can also say that you're happy Anthony Davis here because they weren't going anywhere with him. Point is,
they upgraded.
They're going to miss the rim protection.
Well, that's fair.
They're going to miss that rim protection. Can they win offensively? Because not only rim protection, but just defense in general. LeBron's not playing defense like he used to. Luka certainly doesn't play defense, and Austin Reeves is a liability.
I mean, this is something where the Lakers are going to have to impose their will each and every night. And I just don't know if that's sustainable. The level of physicality teams are going to have, the advantage there they're going to have against the Lakers is going to be problematic at times. And if the Lakers are coming back at you by having more shooters out there and spreading the floor and playing faster, and Luka doesn't typically play that fast. He's more at a slower pace, more methodical of a player out there. Like, that can work against certain teams. But you mentioned there the big teams in the Western Conference. Like, are they really better against the Denver Nuggets without Anthony Davis? What are they going to do against Nikola Jokic? He's just going to absolutely punish them. So they're going to have to be so good offensively, so connected, have such great chemistry on that end to outscore teams. I just don't know if that's sustainable with a 40-year-old LeBron and Luka Doncic, who, by the way, had just missed like the last 6 weeks. This is just his second game back, and he hasn't looked particularly great movement-wise yet. He's on a minutes restriction. Like, I just don't see them running on all cylinders well enough to be able to make a run through the Western Conference. I think that's a lot to ask without having a big man out there. That could be their fatal flaw.
Okay, and I don't disagree with that, but let me ask you this. Do you think, because this is how I summed up the Lakers before the trade, hey, win some, lose some, get in, don't get hurt, get lucky, go on a run, you can win.
Yeah.
All right, that's how I summed them up. So that wasn't an overwhelming endorsement, but I didn't say they were dead.
No, I agree with that, too. The path of least resistance. They get the right matchups. Even before the trade, the Lakers would be in business.
But now with the trade, do you give them just, and I understand the void defensively, I got it, but do you give them even the slightest chance of having a better shot to win it since the trade?
It still depends on matchups, yes. I will say they have higher potential right now. But there is a lot that remains to be seen. There's about 30 games left in the season. I mentioned it already, but the Lakers have the fourth toughest strength of schedule left. They don't have a lot of time to figure this out, to work out the kinks. And I think there's going to be plenty of them like we saw last night. There's going to be games where it looks like they're the best team in the league. There's going to be other games where they're disconnected out there and they can't figure it out. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get a top 4 seed in the Western Conference and have that home court and therefore have that path of least resistance. But if they are healthy, if LeBron and Luka do have it figured out by the end of the regular season, nobody's going to want to see them in a 7-game series, regardless of having that matchup in the paint where there should be blood in the water for teams to go right at them and right through Jackson Hayes and whoever else they have out there, Alex Len. But yeah, I think their ceiling is a little bit higher, Fred. I will give you that. It's just, you're asking for a lot of things. We already were doing this where it's like, okay, if this goes right, yes, the Lakers can have a chance. There's probably even more moving parts right now that they have to figure out than before because you make a huge acquisition like this with Luka Doncic. Is it worth it? Of course. But if they had gotten Mark Williams, if they had gotten anybody, Nick Claxton or Robert Williams, if they had gotten that big, I would have said they're in business this season to be a real contender, a real threat. And I'm not saying they're completely out of it now without that big man, but I think it's a little bit more far-fetched for them to win the entire thing having that flaw.
Okay, Adam, they first of all, LeBron is I don't know what happened, but every time you think he's going to decline, he gets better. He's better than he was 2 years ago. The way he's playing, they get it together and make it to the Western Conference Finals. Fred has suggested that you got to get rid of LeBron and rebuild the whole thing around Luka. If they make a run, this offseason, they make a run, do you do that or do you try to keep LeBron around? You hope that he opts in.
I hope that he opts in because I don't know what value you're going to get for him that would outweigh the potential of basically what we've seen from LeBron James. I think what's been really overlooked, Rodney, when you talk about how he looks better than ever in some ways, guys, the last 2 seasons now, he has turned into a 40% three-point shooter. That's no longer a flaw. Yeah. That's a strength of his. It's incredible being able to improve in that area this late into your career. Not just being average, not just being, pretty good. Like, he is one of the better three-point shooters now in the league. And that's really going to be critical to making this thing work with Luka Doncic. For him, on those catch-and-shoot threes, playing off ball and knocking them down, that's a big part of this. And the reason I would push back against getting rid of him is you don't need to trade him to really upgrade the team. As long as the NBA doesn't come through here and say, hey, actually, you have to make this trade and get Mark Williams back on the Los Angeles Lakers, I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to have their first-round pick. Another one I think is about to open up this summer to them to be able to trade. They'll still have Dalton Connect. They can go out there and get a big man or whoever else they're looking at. They have the assets to bring in that other guy while retaining LeBron James and keeping him next to Luka. Now, if things look, spotty with those two and their chemistry on the court and they can't make it work or it doesn't feel like those two guys can play well enough together, then Fred's got a point. But I'm going to give this plenty of time because those are two of LeBron's never played next to a basketball player with this level of IQ that Luka Doncic has. Like, they're so similar in ways they should know how the other guy wants to play, where he wants the basketball.
Wait,
they should be
Dwayne
connected.
Wade didn't have that IQ?
It was very high. But I think Luka Doncic is a better passer overall than Dwayne Wade and the way he reads the floor. And Dwayne Wade's an all-timer. Don't get me wrong. I love D-Wade. That's one of my favorite players. That 06 run he made, averaging 38 in the finals. I'm just saying, Luka Doncic, he has this crazy innate basketball sense about him that is otherworldly at the age of 25. And I've been saying this for like 3 years, that he's one of the best basketball players I've ever seen, and he's still this young. I was talking about him 3 years ago, eventually being the face of the league. I remember coming on with you guys and saying, eventually an international guy is going to be the face of the league in the NBA, and it's going to be Luka Doncic. He's going to take the torch from LeBron. Little did I know they'd be playing on the same team when that happens.
Yeah, now he's in L.A. That very well is going to happen.
Oh, yeah. It's all happening. So I could see a scenario.
I mean, him and Wemby.
Right. Him, Wemby.
Wemby's coming.
I mean,
Wemby is coming.
It's not like Giannis is falling off a cliff at the age of 30. He still looks great out there. Embiid is falling apart, it looks like right now, but Nikola Jokic isn't. The international guys, like 4 of the top 5 guys in the NBA are international guys right now. It's crazy. But I just want to see how the rest of this season goes before I make a decision like that, because if you can get LeBron and Luka to play well together and you still have the assets to bring in that other guy and still get that big or whatever you think you need after this season, like, what's the problem with holding on to LeBron? Like, why make that move?
Can you hang another segment?
I knew it was coming.
All right, PGA Tour is back at Torrey Pines for the 2025 Genesis Invitational. Join Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa, and more at this signature event. Be there where legends are made. Today through Sunday. Get your tickets today at genesisinvitational.com. Warriors coach Steve Kerr had something interesting to say. Let's get your take on it next, Salty.
Yeah, it's a throwback Thursday. Rodney Pete, Fred Roggin, and the Salty A sticking around to hang out with us.
Let's
Talk
go.
a little hoops. Love it.
All right, Salty. So here's the issue. Steve Kerr says the NBA doesn't care about player health, player safety. Warriors had to play in Dallas at 8:30. Yeah. They took a late night flight. They had to get to Houston. Get ready to play the Rockets at 7 p.m. They got to Houston at 3 in the morning. He says this is ridiculous. He says the league doesn't care about players' safety or health. They care about ratings and all that stuff. So what's the answer?
People realizing that businesses care about the bottom line more than anything else. I mean, didn't this happen in the NFL where, after the CTE stuff came out, the movie with Will Smith and the importance they put on it, but then they also started talking about adding games. And now we have more games. I know what it is.
Teams playing 3 games in 12 days and things like that nowadays.
Yeah, everybody knows what they're signing up for. Unfortunately, this is what it is. This is a business at the end of the day.
And he said that, though. He said that. This is what we signed up for. It doesn't make it right. He can still call out the NBA. It's
no, I have no problem with him.
We signed up for.
He should say something.
It's what we signed up for, but let's be real. They don't really care about player safety, which is true. You can't have guys run up and down the court for 2.5, 3 hours and end a game almost at midnight and jump on a plane and get to the other place at 3 a.m. and then have to play the next night. That's bad for all around.
Well,
It's just bad business.
yeah, exactly. Like, it hurts the product. The NBA, and we've talked about this, Fred, but they got to realize at some point, and I know he wants to shorten minutes and quarters down to 10-minute quarters. I don't like any of that stuff, but extend the season. Find a way to extend the season by a month. They've done it before when they've had to due to COVID. Just figure that out to get more stars out there, because the league is driven by star power. What's more important than that? And reduce the back-to-back so you don't have teams playing 2 games within 24 hours. That just doesn't make sense. If you're going to complain about teams resting guys and you're also at the same time making them play games, let's Ernie Banks it, let's play 2 in a day. It seems to me there's an easy solution to this. Extend the season, get rid of the back-to-backs.
Yeah, but that kills it, Adam. I got to be honest.
What?
And I know you and I disagree on it.
Kills it.
I think it's a tough enough sell.
Baseball doesn't even play in one city and play in the next city the next night, Fred.
I know, I hear you, but look, I don't want to go back to there's too many games, but you will just, by the time you hit the finals, look, here's the issue, and I've said it, and I know you guys disagree. Regular season, there's very little urgency because every game doesn't mean what every other game does. And you need to create that sense of urgency to keep this thing alive. It's fewer games. That can't happen. I know. But dragging this thing out another month, I'm telling you, that is like death. It is way too long. Way too long.
What happens in July, Fred, that is so important? What happens in July?
Thank you.
That is so that we always
People
talk about
go on
the dog
vacation.
days of summer.
People go on vacation. Their mindset is different. It's summer. It's different. People look at things differently.
But what's more detrimental, Fred? Extending the season by a month, or having a game where constantly, each and every night, everyone's wondering what players are going to be available? We talk about it being a players' league. It's a star-driven league. So having the stars more available, that should be the priority.
Okay, if that's the case, how about considering this?
Hmm?
All right. So, you're saying make it a month longer, which I think is like taking knitting needles and shoving them into your eyes. How about this?
Freddie.
Seriously, it's too long. How about
Do
this?
you like sports, Fred?
I love sports, but come on. In this market, it's not going to mean a thing. Everybody's going to be focused on the Dodgers. So here's the thing. How about you start it earlier? Look at it like this, Adam.
Sure.
At some point, you're going to have to eat it anyway. You're just going to have to eat it. You're going to know that there won't be as much interest. I say get it out of the way earlier. I don't know if you start a month earlier, but maybe you start a couple of weeks earlier, to your point, to maybe negate some of this stuff.
Well, there's the middle ground then. I'm fine with that. Whether you extend it later or start it earlier, the point is to have the season more spread out to get rid of the back-to-backs. Just eliminate that. Whatever it takes to do that. But I think Adam Silver would be like, well, the reason we don't want to start it earlier is because then we're competing with the NFL even more.
Right.
But at some point,
You're already competing with the NFL. You're already competing.
Right.
You're already competing.
and that's why they did the
you're already
in-season
competing,
tournament. I'm fine with that, Fred. If that's your solution, I'm good with that too. That's still better than the alternative of what we have now.
Yeah, I think I'd be more apt to say that.
Okay.
At one point, you got to eat it. So when are you going to eat it? Rodney, your point is valid. They already compete with the NFL.
Yeah.
So, okay.
December, other than Christmas Day, where they have, the big games on Christmas Day, other than that, they're losing to the NFL and college football in December. November, December. So,
yeah,
what's the difference if you started a little bit earlier?
I
do agree with you on that starting it earlier probably would be better than finishing later.
Are you guys,
because of the reason you said?
Are you guys going to be eating this All-Star game this weekend? Or are you going to be spitting it out?
Do you see what hockey did?
I did not, Fred. Enlighten me. You're the puckhead.
Four Nations tournament. So it's like Canada and Sweden played last night. But it was a real game at the Forum in Montreal.
Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the United States, right?
Right. And it's 4 teams.
Finland,
but
Sweden, and Canada, and United States.
Yeah, they're real teams, and they're playing real games, and everybody's into it. And maybe you've suggested this in the past, Adam, as I was watching that last night and thinking of the debacle that is the NBA All-Star Game. Why don't you play the world against the United States and make it a game, but make sure everybody is committed to it. Make it a real game.
No, I think, and Adam Silver spoke about this recently, that may happen in the future as the international invasion has been going on, especially over the last 15, 20 years in the NBA. It's become more likely that we're headed that way. I just mentioned how, for the top 5 players, you can make the argument are international stars now. And as much as we talk about, ratings being down in the U.S., I think they're up like 50% internationally, the NBA, over the last 10 years. So there is a balance there, and there is a game that could be a competitive exhibition game during the All-Star break if you just have pride of the country going on. I think that would bring out the best in guys. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that, it would definitely, I think, draw a lot of attention. Do you think that, Fred, you keep saying, well, we got to get the guys to play, I don't know if it's incentive enough to get a guy that's been in the league 8-10 years to play in that.
Basically, what Adam Silver has been saying
young
about
guys,
yeah. But Adam Silver's the complaint has been, okay, they're not playing hard. Why are they not playing hard? And Adam Silver has characterized it as guys look at this as a break now, and not a place to come, because back in the day, you couldn't watch every game on TV. There was no NBA League Pass. So when all the guys got together for All-Star Weekend on network television, on NBC, or wherever you were watching it, like that was a huge deal then. It was rare to see where everybody could watch all the players together because you couldn't go out of market and watch games back in the day. And I think that created more buzz. And it's just not like that now. We see stars each and every night. We see guys on different teams. It's easy. It's accessible. So that alone has diminished
and oversaturated.
Yeah, that's diminished this weekend a little bit. But there is something to guys. I love the modern game. I do. I think it's better than ever. I think there's more tough shot makers than ever. But I cannot defend the All-Star game. It is an abomination. With what we have seen overall the last 10, 15 years now. There have been a couple of really good games, but outside of that, the competitiveness is not there. And when you keep having to change the format, it just illustrates or signifies or indicates to everyone that they can't get it right. They can't figure out a way to get these guys to play hard. Will this work? I don't know. If a game's close late, you just hope it's close enough to where you get to the last 5 minutes and then the competitive juices start to flow a little bit and guys start to care.
Well, let me ask you this. So, and Rodney, you said, is that enough incentive? Well, could the incentive be, it's for the good of the game? Because I looked at these guys playing hockey last night, and they were playing. I mean, seriously playing. It wasn't this holiday Disney on Ice bit, skating around in circles and lobbing it up there. They were playing. So if they can do that, if they think it's good for the game, why wouldn't the NBA players feel the same way?
It's a strange mindset that has seeped in for some time.
Yeah.
It's just, well, first of all, hockey guys are built different. You know this, Fred.
Yeah, and it's almost like a mini Olympics what the hockey's doing right now with that whole thing. I don't know if you get that. Because Adam said it. Guys look at it as a break, and the break is more important than a meaningless mid-season game. So I'd much rather be in Cancun relaxing for 4 or 5 days than being in Minnesota getting ready to go through all these festivities and play this meaningless game.
And if that's the case, and if that's really how it's viewed, and obviously it is viewed that way, that's why you just scrap the whole thing.
They won't do that.
No, because they have television commitments.
Yeah, and it's still
money to be made.
It still draws enough eyeballs. It's still a celebration of the game, regardless. There's something else, and Kevin and I were talking about this off air. It's more so about the kids getting excited for the All-Star game. It may look cartoonish on the court to us, adults now, but there were some bad games back in the day where it was just an alley-oop fest, and I loved it as a kid, even though it was bad basketball, even though it was uncompetitive.
It was Harlem Globetrotters, and you loved it. Yeah, absolutely.
Some of that
Fred,
just
you don't
leaves
like it,
you as
you're
you get
old
older.
fuddy-duddy.
Yeah, Fred's an old curmudgeon. Shaking his fist at the clouds.
I'm not doing that. I'm
get off my lawn guy now.
I'm not that guy either. I'm saying if you're going to do something, then do it. So if you're going to play an all-star game, okay, guys, it's for the good of the game or for whatever reason, you got to show up and compete. You've got to put on a show. It's got to mean something to somebody. If it doesn't mean anything to anybody, then why are we doing it? We're doing it for TV. If the guys would rather take 4 days off and go to Cancun, well, let's all go to Cancun, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
But it's also a moneymaker too, Fred, for the city that it's in, for a lot of things. So, it's more than just the game. Like Adam said, there's other stuff, and for kids, there's activities. There's all kinds of stuff going on that weekend. The experience, everything that you can think of outside the court. So, parties and charity events and all the things that surround the All-Star game. There's so much that you would get rid of if you just scrapped it.
I will also say,
you
go on, Rodney. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will just say, just looking up last year's television ratings, which drives a lot of this, they still had 5.5 million viewers.
There you go.
It's not great, but it's not nothing.
No,
that's pretty significant.
Versus not having it at all.
Right.
I mean, that's huge for them. And what if, just like the first game with the Elam rules, when we were all trying to figure out how is this going to work, you have to get to a certain score. That game that took place in 2020, when it was after the unfortunate and untimely death of Kobe Bryant, and they named the All-Star Trophy, the MVP trophy after him, guys got up and played hard in that game, and we got a really good All-Star game. Maybe that's what they're chasing with these new rules. They feel like new rules, a little bit of buzz. The first time around, guys might actually play hard. You never know. Like, you get a good game on Sunday, and we'll be talking differently on Monday about how this went, guys. And I'm still excited for some of the events. I want to see Norman Powell in the three-point contest. Like, we can be bitter and we can be cynical and pessimistic about it, but there have been some good games over the last 10, 15 years. Just, 70% of the time, they've been god-awful.
All right, so here's the bottom line. If the All-Star Weekend is really important, and if what goes on in that town means something to the city, then just make it NBA All-Star Weekend and don't even have a game. Just put cameras all over the city and show that, because it's far more exciting than watching that game.
The reality show behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's it. Do that. And then we don't even have to go through the game.
I mean,
here's
we kind of get that.
Here's the bars. Here's the parties. That's great. It's the NBA All-Star Weekend, and we can avoid the game, and then everybody will be happy.
I don't know, Fred. I feel like TMZ's already fallen.
Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn, Fred.
Hardly. You're welcome. You know what? Don't even say it. You're welcome. Adam, thanks for hanging, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome.
Clippers tonight in Utah, 5 p.m. pregame, and you'll hear it right here on AM 570. And we're back to wrap it up.